Good morning, everyone. Simon here, Brit Simon here. Let's take some of your questions and give you some answers. No particular topic today. Happy to take questions from any point of view, from DV25, DV26. You want to talk about the travel ban? Let's talk about that. I'm sure some of you will want to know, what are the final numbers going to be? What, does my case number have a chance? I get that you ask those questions, but at this point, it's anybody's guess how the government will behave with the last visa bulletin. The mathematical predictions don't really matter at this point. It's a question of what the government wants to do. Do they want to do a Hail Mary, which hopefully some of you will understand what that is, or do they want to underissue visas? I don't know. So we have to wait and see. And really, that's the most logical thing I can say to you, is wait and see. So, Philip, what will the final numbers be? Thank you, Philip. Did you hear me saying that, or did you just decide to mess with my head? Anyway, good morning, Philip. Hope you're doing well. Some experts are saying it will be current for Asia next month. What do you think? I think that's one of the least likely things that will happen. I don't know why some experts are saying that, but that's one of the least likely things I can imagine. But who knows? I mean, at this point, who knows? Think what you want to think. Just don't listen to any experts, especially experts that are morons. Hello, can you see how many days wait for my invitation letter? I don't know, Mariam, because I don't have a database where I can look up your name and figure out what your position is, right? I don't know what your case number is. I don't know your region. I don't know your year of lottery. What am I supposed to do with this question? You've given me no information. So I don't know what to say, really. I honestly don't know what to say. You're going to have to give me a little bit of a clue. Give me some specifics so that I can answer that question. It's just so incredibly vague and undetailed. Fadi, do you think the low bulletin numbers are caused by the new administration? No, not at all. I don't think the Trump administration are at all involved in what you think is the low visa bulletin numbers. In terms of the low visa bulletin numbers, let's just talk about that for a second. They've issued 31,000 people, right? They've issued visas to 31,000 people. Let me just take you off there. 31,000 is the number. They have 14,000 people in ready status, right? Now, they also have 3,500 people sitting there in 221G. It's not that they've been going that slow, right? I think many of you, it's like the gentleman that just asked about Asia. It's kind of not been paying attention the whole time. That's really the problem. So look, here's what I mean about Asia. Asia highest case numbers go up to about 30,000. I've literally never given any indication that it would go anything to that level. If you looked at my prediction videos back in January, I was saying that the final number would be, I think I started around about 17,000 and said it might go to about 20,000. We're now at 11,000, and with a big jump, we could be in the sort of 17, 18, 19,000 range. That is possible. But why would they have spent 11 months getting to this point and then in the last month go to 30,000? I mean, it just doesn't make sense that you think that way. And so when you say low visa bulletin progress, etc., it's because you didn't really either believe or understand or hear what I was trying to say before back in January. Your expectation is what's wrong, not the reality. Same thing can be said for any region. Africa, 88,000 is the highest case number, is about 88,000, right? You can see that we're at about 40, 45. It's just the visa bulletin went to 50,000 for August. That's a pretty good number. I expected the region mathematically to finish up at around about 60,000, give or take a little bit, right? And guess what? With one more visa bulletin, they could do a sensible amount of movement, and we would be directly in the numbers that I was suggesting. Exactly, right? That's exactly what I was predicting from the beginning, and it's not a big surprise. Now, they could also go current on Africa. That's much more likely, by the way, than going current on Asia. The actions have been to try and push, the actions we've seen over recent years have been to try and push Africa to meet its quota, and it won't meet its quota again this year. So as a reaction to that, I wouldn't be surprised to see Africa go current, but mathematically, it should probably only go to about 60,000 or so, 65,000. Let's have a look at EU. EU we've got case numbers up to about 42,000, right? Now, we've got a good amount of issuances right now. They're not sort of bad. They're going to be slow issuances in June, July, and slower than it should have been because they didn't move the visa bulletin enough earlier. But the VB is now for August at 22,000. So with a bit of a jump, it would be in the sort of 27,000 range, which was about the earliest I saw danger. Again, it's sort of in the right range, right? I'm hoping it will go at least to 30,000. And for those that have done the comparison to last year EU went in the final visa bulletin went to 50,000. If you calculate the number of cases that 50,000 number equates to in DV 2025, it comes out to about 36,000, right? So it's not impossible to imagine them jumping to 35,000 in the final visa bulletin. It's not impossible because that's what they did last year, right? And so it's a possibility that they get to a pretty high number like that, like 35,000. But that's what a Hail Mary is, right? The numbers like Africa going current last year, EU going to 50,000, that's a Hail Mary, right? It's an unjustifiably large final visa bulletin in order to use every last bit of capacity within the system to allow those little embassies that are not scheduling very many cases but have some additional capacity to allow those to do their work. It allows adjustment of status cases to submit their cases and so on. So it squeezes every last little visa possibility out of the numbers. So a Hail Mary is possible. Mathematically, we shouldn't get to 35,000, right, in EU. So again, I don't know which region you're from, Fadi, but in general, is your expectation that's been wrong, not the visa bulletin progress. It's actually progressed pretty much according to a little bit lower, but pretty much according to what I'd hoped or planned or assumed, predicted, whatever you want, whatever word you want to say. It's pretty much gone as we could have expected. I've been frustrated the last 2 or 3 months that they haven't used this busy time properly. They really should have been using the busier time, June, July, August. They should have been using that busier time better. And as it is, they've made it very much about a last minute sort of push. But frankly, that's helping certain people. That makes it more likely that they'll do a Hail Mary. If they had done this properly, a Hail Mary would have been less likely. But they've fucked up again. They seem to relentlessly screw it up every single year. I've written to KCC to point out a couple of things, by the way. It's so funny. I spent a long time, giving them a lot of detailed information. Basically, I gave them an affidavit that I'm about to file in the lawsuit for the GB case. And it gave them a lot of good information. And they replied, and I asked them to send it through to the director. And they replied with the dopey template saying how the DV lottery works and what the law is that's controlling the lottery. I know that. I explained who I was in the email. I know all that. But they're like robots at times. Honestly, I can't wait to speak to these people. and just say to them, look, you got to stop the robots. When somebody emails you some legitimate information, says who they are, explains that they've been dealing with this since 2013, explains that they're about to sue you, maybe you should just get off your freaking chair and think, oh, hang on, that sounds like an interesting email. I should probably forward that to someone in charge and save everybody some time. But no, they just act like idiots at times. And I'm sorry, ladies of KCC, but honestly, you need a bit of a slap upside the head. You used to be so much better at KCC in the days when you would take a phone call, and occasionally, one every, probably every other phone call, I'd get through to someone. I'd say, hi, I'm Britt Simon. And people would say, oh yeah, hi, Britt Simon, we know of you, right? And then they would give me helpful information. They would give me sometimes the visa bulletin numbers in advance. In those few days period where KCC know the VB numbers, but we don't have them yet, they would sometimes give me the VB numbers in advance, right? That's how helpful they used to be. They would, I've actually been put through to managers before and had conversations with team managers, etc., and had emails back from them before. But in COVID, they stopped answering the phone and they stopped using their brains, apparently, because they're not being, attentive to anybody. They're just sending out bloody template emails. Anyway, so that's my rant over for the day. Do you think Africa will go current? Maybe. That's Yerevan, Armenia Embassy. Mariam, you're not helping. Oh dear, you're the vague questioner. You're just going to give me snippets of random information without giving me the information I need, right? DV 2025 stopping because of World War. Okay. Hello from New York. DV 24 winner here. Maisie Mumbles. Oh, very, very nice. Congratulations on being in New York. Good choice. Better than Alabama. Any updates about Nairobi 2NL insurance? I think you mean issuance or something. So we're about to see what Nairobi is going to do, right? There are 2 months of scheduling left. 2NLs have already been sent out to a few hundred people this week. A little slower than I normally would have expected, by the way, which means to me they got the VB number a little bit later than normal. That's my assumption. But this month, embassies like Nairobi need to decide what they're going to do. They could do, nothing at all, or they could take some cases. What are they going to do? How will they let history judge them? If they did 2 good months of scheduling, then a lot of the pain and anger towards them, would be alleviated. But if they just sit on their asses and do no scheduling again, which is a possibility, then there will be a lot of anger and hatred and disappointment directed towards that embassy, because it's really unforgivable to do what they're doing to DV lottery winners. I get that they prefer or prioritize immediate relatives. All the embassies do that, right? But most of the embassies also carve out a certain amount of capacity in order to do DV lottery cases, because DV lottery cases expire at the end of the fiscal year, whereas immediate relative cases do not expire. Okay, I get that citizens should be given priority. I'm an American citizen now myself, right? So yes, I want priority when I'm dealing with an embassy, but I also want that embassy to be fair towards people and try and weigh up competing priorities, not just completely ignore people that are about to lose their chance. So come on, Nairobi, if you're listening, get off your ass. Case number 54K, transferred to Cotonou, Benin from Nairobi. Hope to be current in the next VB. Okay, good move. So, Waguti, you've done it right. You've done the best you can do, right? Now, you were facing a situation where you calculated how far Nairobi could get, and you felt, and I think we've discussed this before, Waguti, but you felt that it was smart to move your case to another embassy, and you did that before you became current. And so that's the right behavior. That's what people should do. Unfortunately, some people get trapped with unresponsive embassies before they even know about that. That happens at the beginning of the year. That will happen to some DV26 folks, for example, that would get locked into Ankara with no chance. That's going to happen to some people. But in your case, Waguti, you took your future into your hands and you've given yourself a chance. So well done you. I wish more people were paying attention and would do the same. Okay, good news here. Victory, well-named Victory. Thank you, sir. My interview was a success. Good for you. Evans, what's your take on the meeting in Nairobi? Just talked about it, Evans. Luther, EU35K. There you go. So Luther is hoping, I assume that's DV25. Luther is hoping that they do the same Hail Mary that they did last year. And 35K, I think the actual equivalent is about 36. I think it's just under 36K. So 35K would be the equivalent of a 50K DV24 that we saw last year, right? Mariam, okay, here we go. My case number is EU 1921 Yerevan, right? So 19,000 Yerevan. How many days do I need to wait for my status to be ready? Okay, well, at least you've given me the information almost. You haven't told me which year, but you know, we're battling here a little bit to get some information out of you. So, Mariam, the way it works is this. When you become current, as you now are, you became current this month if you're a DV25. When you become current, you have a possibility of being sent the 2NL, right? The possibility is not a certainty because the embassies have capacity issues. But I would have thought, I don't know, I haven't checked Yerevan. Let me just check Yerevan before sort of guessing. Let me just have a look over here. Actually, you know what? Because this is, it's an important time for people to understand how to do what I'm about to do. So, let's just show you again, like one more time. If you want to know about an embassy, there's a couple of ways that there's a couple of things you can do, right? And I'm going to show you now. So let me just take this off, Mariam. And please, everyone else, pay attention, because I've done this, I don't know how many times, but you know, and Philip and Roberto and others that have seen this a million times, they must be like, oh, now's the time to make a cup of tea. Yeah, it is. For the next 5 minutes, I'm going to show how you can look at your embassy and see whether it's backlogged or not, see whether you've got a chance or not, and so on. Okay, so Yerevan. So first thing to do is you type into this brilliant website that Zarthisius has given us. He's got all this information, and you have a look at a couple of things. You firstly have a look at, you can sort of quickly estimate how backlogged are they, right? If I want to look for EU, for example, oh, it looks like they took cases between 17 and 18,000. I would guesstimate they probably have taken cases up until about 17,700, something like that. And I'll confirm that in a moment, right? There's three ways you can do this. Okay, the other thing I want to look at this picture is roughly how many cases they take per 1,000. Now be careful, when you click the all button, you'll see these are grouped into 1 to 2,000 buckets. So it's from 1 to 2,000, 2,000 to 4,000, right? So make sure you understand what buckets you're looking at. And if you click over to EU, it'll then automatically redraw them into 1,000 buckets. So then you can just eyeball this and you can say, on average, I think they're taking about 22 cases per 1,000, roughly. Just looking at that. I'm just looking at that picture, right? And saying, okay, that looks about 22 cases per 1,000. And so that's an important factor you need to know. Then you have a look and see how many cases they're taking on a typical month. And this is an interesting thing, right? So in February, for example, 210, 211, 221, they took 47, 49, and 96. They took almost 200 cases in that 1 month. In March, they took 44 cases, right? You can see that there. And in April, they took 49. Okay, so they did a 200 month, and then they did 2 months of nearly 50. And then in May, they did 102. Okay. So they'll probably take, roughly speaking, let's say they take another 100 in the month of August, right? If they've got 22 cases per 1,000, then they could conceivably move 5,000 spaces, right? Now, 5,000 spaces would put them there. There's only numbers up to 22,000 are current, right? So that means that they will not be backlogged, right? If they take 100 cases, in fact, they probably won't even take 100 cases because there won't be that many cases assigned to them. So we'll probably see a number lower than 100 because they will meet the 22,000 number. This is what I mean when I say that the visa bulletin could have been moving faster. They've been underusing capacity. In Yerevan, they did 200 in February, but they only did 44 and 49 in March because that's all the cases there were. They obviously said they could handle 50 cases, and only 44 were sent in March, right? So they wasted capacity, and if we look at that capacity there, it's clear that they're wasting a little bit of capacity now. But okay, so that's the quick sort of eyeball method. Then, if you want to get a little bit more sophisticated and accurate, you click this big button, right? This used to say you can download the latest case numbers in each 1K from all consulates from here. And it used to have the word here, and it was a link, and nobody could see the link, apparently. People were still saying, I don't know where to find it. So Zarthisius, bless his cotton socks, puts a dirty, great big button there so you can see, I clicked the button, right? He couldn't be making it more easy. Okay, so I just did that, and I'm going to open that, right? So I've downloaded this spreadsheet, and I'm opening it, right? Give my computer a moment. I apparently need a new computer because this bloody thing is like so slow these days. It's supposed to be a good computer, but I don't know. Not feeling it. Not feeling the love, computer. Right, where are you? Where is my... Oh, I'll try it again. So downloaded to here. I should be able to open that. Why is that not coming up? Is it coming up behind or something? No. Let's see. Oh, come on. Right, hang on a second. Let me just open this up. Here we go. Finally, it's starting to open. Good Lord. I know what I've got. I must have too much crap going on. Right, so now we've got the sheet, which is the number of interviews for each 1,000 bucket actually organized nicely. And since we're talking about Yerevan, we can switch over to the EU tab, and we can find their column, right? And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see. Okay, so I'm going to scroll over here. I go to Yerevan and see, yep, they're up to the 17 to 18,000 level, which meant that in the last month, that 102 wasn't quite enough. They had a little bit of a backlog, and they still do have a little bit of a backlog because they're not at the 19,000 level. They took 17 cases in the bucket from 17 to 18,000. So they're a tiny little bit backlogged. But if we get the average number of cases per 1,000, I guesstimated it was 22. It's actually 27. That was a bit of bad guesstimate. I don't know why I made that mistake. But the average is 27, right? So if they took 100 cases, that would be roughly 4,000. So they could move from 18,000 to 22,000 in the 1 month if they take 100 cases, right? And so that's how you know what the embassy is about to do. Now, I'm making an assumption that they're going to take about 100 cases based on the capacity they gave in July, right? That could be an incorrect assumption. They only had a capacity in the previous 2 months, that of 50. But in February, they had a capacity of 200 cases, right? So seems reasonable to me that they'll take another 100 for August, considering that's normally the busier time of year. So I think they'll get right up to date. I think they'll schedule all the cases up to 20,000. So, Mariam, you're probably going to get your 2NL, assuming your DS-260 was processed, you'll probably get your 2NL this month for a August interview. And Yerevan, the 2NLs go out sort of alphabetically, not exactly alphabetically. There's always a bit of an anomaly, but the the letter A, B's, and C's tend to be first, and that's what we've seen this week. I think we've seen up to H for Havana. So the earlier embassies, alphabetically sorted, tend to get the 2NLs first, and so Yerevan, being at the end of the alphabet, will be at the end. Okay, so that means they'll probably get, in this next week coming, they'll probably get their 2NLs, and that will give you the time between now, this month, and August to organize yourself. Okay, and for anyone else sort of trying to understand, just do a similar sort of exercise. You can see here which embassies are, oh look, this is interesting, because the data swipe was taken last night. I haven't really seen this before, actually. You can see the embassies that have already taken cases, accepted cases, in the 22,000 range, right? And it looks like these cases here are backlogged, but that's not the case. They just haven't actually taken the 2NLs yet because of the alphabetical sorting thing, right? And so ATA is taking cases, BCH, BKK, BNK, and so on, right? So that's a sort of a confirmation of this alphabetical information coming out. And you can see, again, these embassies, these ones here, they're all right up to date, right? This one here, ATA, is a tiny little bit backlogged. Looks like they've taken a partial 1,000 there. So tiny little bit backlogged, but basically in really good shape. That's not a backlogged embassy. Which one's that, Ben? That's not backlogged, obviously. These are in good shape. Okay, so you can see so much from this data. And, you've really got to learn how to use this information. It's available to you, and it's being provided for free. We've got to be so grateful for the information that we got these days. In 2013, 2014, this data wasn't available. I started getting scraped data from a guy called Rafiki Bro, who I'm still friends with on Facebook friends. Unfortunately, I've never met him. But yeah, 10 years ago is when we started getting scraped data from SEAC. And so, we started to understand more and more at that time, about 10 or 11 years ago. Because once you can see the SEAC data, you can understand this process so much better, right? And now you've got Zarthisius working on his spare time, doing things like, taking the data and putting it available to us and doing nice visualizations so that we can all understand it, and taking this and providing this spreadsheet. It's amazing. You guys have got no idea how lucky you are to be going through this process at a time when you've got such amazing tools available to you. So, those of you that learn how to use the tools have an advantage. That's quite simply the case. Some of you, there's been this guy this week who's just ignored the whole bloody thing. He's from Italy. Roberto's been trying to help him. And it's a 30-year-old dude who just didn't bother to think for a whole year. He's just ignored this whole thing. And now he's like, oh, he's a DV25 candidate from Italy. And he's like, oh, do you think I should submit my DS260 yet? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You should have done that months ago. And now he's like, oh, I don't know what I should do. And over 2 or 3 days this week, he's come into a Telegram channel saying, just asking random stupid questions. And I keep saying, you need to submit your DS260 right now, like today. Otherwise, you're not going to get a chance. The people are just amazing. He was waiting until July, I think. He was going to wait until July. So he might get his DS260 process, but honestly, someone who's that clueless, I don't think he's ready to move halfway across the road, across the road even, but certainly not halfway across the world. I don't think some people are just not cut out to taking on the challenge of emigrating. It's a big freaking deal to pack up your bags and move to a different country and start again. It takes guts. It takes courage. It takes skill. It takes intelligence. It takes, it takes more than that guy has got. I have to say, I don't want to be rude to the guy, but you know, if you're 30 years old and you still have got no freaking idea what you're doing, I'm sorry, you're probably better off staying in a country which will look after you if you can't work and if you get sick and whatever, because America is not for you, buddy. You know, I don't know. So let's go back to this. What's my prediction for the last VB in EU region? I don't know. Would love to go, but certainly won't reach my number, sadly. Yeah, you might do, Luther, at 35K. You might get a chance. We'll have to see. I want to check out my what should I do. I want to check out my what should I do, sir. I want to check out my your what? Your bunions? What do you want to check? What is it you're telling me? Hi, Simon. It's me, your panic boy. Yeah, Marcos. Oh, man. In the short time I've known Marcos, he's a DV26 candidate. In the short time I've known Marcos, he has asked me so many interesting questions. He's thinking about every bloody thing. But every so often, every few days, he turns into panic mode and starts asking sort of random panicky questions. I don't know what's going on, Marcus. I need to hook you up with someone a bit more sensible in your country. You're from Italy, right? Search out Roberto. Anyway, Jamshid, I'm a student in the US and uploaded my picture from my previous DS-160 application. That was a stupid idea, wasn't it? I'm doing AOS inside the US, and when my family attend the interview, is it going to be a problem? What going to be a problem? I don't know. What, the photo from the DS-160? Try and word the questions in a way that's specific. When you say, is it going to be a problem? You could say, is the photo that I uploaded going to be a problem? Right? Or is the photo going to be a problem? Just try and think of your questions. Imagine you're speaking to someone and they don't understand every single little thing that you're trying to say. You have to actually be a bit more clear and specific, right? So are you worried about the photo on the DS-160? Look, if you're the principal applicant, then you using an old photo from from another application is just a stupid idea, because the instructions say to you that the photo should be less than 6 months old. Just read the freaking instructions and follow them. That's all I expect from people, right? Just follow the instructions. But no, people won't do it. Anyway, luckily for you, up until now, the government has been very relaxed about photos. They haven't. They disqualify people during the selection process for sure, based on photos. But in general, they don't disqualify cases at interview over photos. It's got to be things like you turn up and your photo is clearly of another person, or you took a picture of some random kid and then the kid that turns up for interview is clearly not the same person. Those are the only times that we really hear about refusals based on the photos. It's very hard to get refused on photos. So now, having said that, it's very easy to become a whole because of photos. You get screened out during the initial selection. I'm working on that. Announcement on that soon. So I need to improve that, because honestly, way too many cases are made into holes because they haven't taken good photos. Hi sir, 54K 2025 Africa. What are my opportunities? You've got a chance of going current, put it like that. What will be the last visa bulletin, Fraser? I don't know. Yondi is doing well, and a friend that I advised to transfer his case they got his visa. Good. Thanks to the knowledge gained from you, Mr. Britt. Well done, Leslie. You helped a friend in need. So well done for explaining to that person. You saved that guy's number, probably. You saved his green card. Let me just say something. Roberto this week spent his evening time, creating a letter that somebody should send to the government to try and appeal their case. And Roberto is a lawyer by profession in his own country. I'm sure he'll be a lawyer over here. Roberto is, in case some of you don't know who he is, He was on a live session with me, Philip, and Stoic a few weeks ago. We did a four-man, live session. Lovely guy, super funny guy, brilliant with AI. Love him to death. But he took his time after an evening out to type out this email that someone should send, or letter. And I really appreciate people like that go out of their way to take their time to help a stranger. And I think it's important to realize that probably, I think that letter that he sent will probably be successful. It will probably save someone's green card who had a DV 2025 visa issued and then revoked. I think there's a very good chance that he's going to save that case. And that's because some guy in Italy helped some guy in Egypt who's a Sudan guy who he's never met, guy from Sudan, who interviewed in Egypt, and Cairo embassy did him dirty. And so some dude in America who was originally born in England or Scotland had a word with someone who's in Italy, who's a lawyer, to craft a nice email, who, by the way, if Roberto hadn't been available to do it, Mike would have done it. Mike's a German guy who went through the DV lottery, now lives in America. I mean, it's just all of these people in the community coming together to help people, to save somebody's green card. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's the reason I do this. It fills my heart, with happiness. So, that's why I do this. I also get a bunch of crazies that try and, threaten me and all sorts of stuff from time to time. But the good news stories make it worthwhile. So thank you to Roberto, and let's keep the community spirit going, because that's really important to help people like that. I remember one time, quick story. One time there was a guy, where was it? Well, I'm going to get the countries wrong. I think there was a guy from Yemen, I think it was. It was just shortly after some really big troubles had started. And he needed to go to another country, needed to get the hell out of Yemen. He needed to go to another country to be able to get to an interview. And basically it got arranged that, I think he was from Yemen, but he went to this other country and was taken through the streets, kind of thing, smuggled through the streets, through safety and everything else, in order to be able to get to by some other DV lottery people that had spoken with me, and they arranged to meet up together, and they helped each other. I mean, literally, this is like, some sort of spy book stuff. They literally smuggled this guy through the streets of some other country because he wasn't supposed to be there for whatever reason. And it saved him his visa. It got him his visa, his green card, and he's now living in America and having a great time. I mean, honestly, you couldn't make this stuff up. I'm not making that up. That's an absolutely true thing. I may have the countries wrong, but it's an absolutely true thing. I remember it very well. Do you think Africa will reach 60K in DV25, and how do we go about medicals in a transfer country? Okay, so high possibility that they go to 60K in DV25. I think it's a highly likely thing. Even without a Hail Mary, I think 50K could go to 60K in the final visa bulletin for Africa. How do you deal with medicals? Medicals typically, not in every case, but it typically, 9 times out of 10, you have to do the medical in the country where you're going to interview. So you go on the embassy-specific webpage, and it says the list of their panel physicians that they will accept. Okay, and you have to have your medical at one of those. Okay, unless you've previously arranged something different with the embassy, it generally has to be the physician that they have previously approved. Okay. Okay. Mengkong Pong. What a brilliant name. Hey Simon, watching you at 10:30 p.m. here. Current for August, AS 9400. Good luck to me. Yes, indeed. Good luck to you. I think you got a chance, right? AF 54K to be current for next month. Yes, very possible. Hey Simon, 2026 AF 85XXX. Should I fill my DS260 or just wait until next year? That's a great question, really. Now, we know that AF numbers go to 100K, just over 100K, probably 105 or 110. So you're not at the very, very highest ranges, but you are reasonably high, right? And I think probably the government have increased selectee numbers for Africa again, right? They did this weird thing. I can show you this thing. It is kind of weird what they did. Let me just show you something. Right. So in DV23, they had 49,119 selectees for DV23, right? In DV24, this is for Africa. In DV24, they increased it to 55,030, right? That's like an increase. And in DV25, they increased Africa again. They keep increasing the number of selectees for Africa to 55,942. Africa got an increase in selectees while in DV25, while every other region got a decrease in selectees. There are less visas available in DV25 compared to DV24, 6% less visas, for that year. So it's very unusual to see any of the regions actually increased in number of selectees, but they kept doing it, right? And they also keep putting Africa current when it doesn't really need to be current. So they keep pushing Africa. It's like their whole way of thinking, their whole sort of imagining is, oh, did Africa go current? No. Oh, we must need more selectees then. We've got to give them more selectees because they don't go current. It's like they're not quite understanding how this whole process works. Honestly, that some of you think that they are more scientific than this and that they must know what they're doing. And I just chuckle at that. They don't know what they're doing. They haven't got a clue. This is a very clumsy reaction to a very understandable situation. And they just keep increasing the numbers. So I think in Africa, in DV26, we'll see a number probably 56,000 and above of selectees. Now, the travel ban, if it stays in place, will affect quite a number of those selectees. And because it will be in place for probably all of the DV26 period, that's my expectation, unless it's blocked by, by some sort of lawsuit. Because it's going to be in place for such a long time, it will dramatically affect, where we get to in terms of the highest case numbers. So AF85 is a little bit high. It may be too high. It may be almost as high as 88K as this year, right? Because maybe they've increased the selectee numbers quite a bit. But we'll have to wait and see whether that is, a sensible number or not. So there's two things I would say to you is, it doesn't matter if you hold off on your DS260 submission right now. It's not going to delay you, all right? Because AF85K isn't going to be current until probably into next summer of 2026. So basically a year from now, right? And so there's plenty of time if you want to just hold back on your DS260 submission. That wouldn't harm you at all. What point should you submit it? Well, there's two specific points that I think that you could submit it. Number one, wait for the number of selectees. You can see how many selectees that we have, and we can begin to understand, is this a heavily over-selected year or is it under-selected? And we can begin to make certain guesses about that, right? So we get some information in either July or in August in the visa bulletin that publishes the number of selectees per country. And then the other piece of information that we'll get, which is critical information, is in January the 1st of next year. We will then get the SEAC data for the whole year, and we'll see the whole layout distribution, including where there are limited countries that reduce the density and that sort of thing. So we will have a much better idea in January than we have now. So if I were you, if I were in your position, I would say don't submit the DS260 right now. And I would either wait until August when we have the selectee numbers, or I would probably wait until January the 1st when we have the full picture. And if you submit in January, you will still get scheduled. It won't affect your case at all in terms of scheduling. It's, some people are very confused about this, but it's basically it won't matter. It's not going to impact you negatively. I don't want to go down that track and explain why, but it won't impact you. Okay, so you could easily hold off your DS260 submission for now. Okay. Vafi says, thank you for all your help, Simon. Have you thought training AI with all your information? Funnily enough, if you do AI searches, if you ask, the various AI, engines questions about DV lottery, if they give sources, they will often refer to to either my blog page or my videos. Sometimes they will cite me as a source, right? Which is kind of cool if you want to put it that way. But just be careful with AI in general. It can be, it can sometimes give crappy answers. So just be careful. But I'm not in charge of training those LLMs, right? I can't contact chat GPT and say, hey, you're not relying on my information enough. They just decide for themselves how to how to put that together, right? So I have in the past, about a year and a half ago, when it became possible about a year and a half ago to sort of put LLMs together and say, okay, I'm going to use that LLM, but I'm also going to train it with a set of other information, private information, which I can upload. And I did that as a sort of a little technical experiment. And yes, it did improve the quality of the answers of the AI. Because I pointed it specifically at my blog. But that technology is already happening. They're already now looking at my blog. I don't need to do anything to make that happen. So I think it's probably okay. Eventually there'll be an AI version of me, I guess. Brit Simon AI. Casablanca asleep, sadly. No, yeah, I do. I agree. Hi, Dale. I know it's difficult to say, but what do you think the AFDB25 will be next month? Yeah, it's difficult to say, as you say, Dale. We'll wait and see. Okay. Will the ROA bulletin move at least up to 14,000 due to density drop? And will the Iran VB pause because of the ban? Yes, the ROA. And when someone says ROA, they really mean the rest of Asia. And it's Asia is the normal number, but it shows someone who understands that Nepal and Iran has their own sort of their own number range. I am expecting Asia to go above 14,000 for the final bulletin. Yes, quite appreciably above 14,000. It's not really just to do with the density drop. The density doesn't drop in ROA. The density in Asia drops because Nepal and Iran stop getting cases at some point, right? That's why the density drops. Otherwise, ROA density is the same all the way through. So your second question is, will the Iran VB pause because of the ban? No. The reason for that is that Iranians, although blocked by the travel ban, are still eligible to go and get their interviews if they want to. And they have to decide for themselves whether they want to go through that or not. Why would they do that? Well, they could have a dual citizenship, and that would be the most likely way to get exempt from the travel ban. So if, for example, you have an Iranian who lives in Canada, who has a Canadian citizenship and Canadian passport, that person's not banned, right? They can continue. So the visa bulletin has to allow for that and let people be interviewed if they want. But I have to say, and I really want people to listen to this, if you are from a travel banned country, you should only go for your interview at this point in time if you have dual citizenship, a proper dual citizenship, not some bullshit version of dual citizenship where I've got two passports and and it shows that I was born in this country and this country, two totally different countries, and so that one of them is obviously a fake freaking document, right? That's not what I'm talking about. But what I'm talking about is if you genuinely have two legitimate citizenships and you've got a passport for a non-banned citizenship, then you can be exempt from the travel ban. But for goodness sake, don't go to the interview if you don't have that, hoping that they will give you a national interest exception because you're a nice person or because you really want it, or because they obviously have made some mistake in banning, your country. If you're thinking like that, you're mental. Like you're not gonna succeed in getting them to give you an NIE, based on what you want. That's not the point. I keep saying to people, and I'm really abrupt about it, because I want you to listen. I want you to hear. When they ban these countries, it's because they want to ban those people. They want to be shitty towards people in those countries. That is the Trump administration's deliberate tactic. So they aren't going to be shitty to you 1 minute and then say, oh, but don't worry, we like you. You're a pretty young girl, or you're a nice family. Oh, you deserve an NIE. They're not going to give national interest exceptions to people from countries based on bullshit. They're going to, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do it because your brother's a doctor in America. They're not going to do it because you've always wanted to drive a Ford Mustang. They're not going to do it for all these stupid reasons you keep coming up with, because they want to ban you, because they're shitty people. That's it. That's the explanation. They want to ban you. Okay. So please understand. I know it's horrible. I understand it's heartbreaking, but some of you are going for your interviews expecting a miracle to happen, and it isn't going to happen. So only go there if you've really got a legitimate exception, which for the majority of DV cases, really, there's only one really good exception, and that's the dual citizenship exception. Okay. Other than that, don't bother trying. Okay. Well, I hope that's sort of getting through to some of you. EU, come on, need a 35k visa bulletin numbers next month. Yeah, fingers crossed. Do you think Africa will go current in 25? Already talked about it. I've been scheduled for interview if you want, at Kathmandu Embassy, Nepal, but did not get second letter. Why? Okay, some people are confused about this too. There is a system glitch that has been in place for at least 4 or 5 weeks, where the 2NL, so people are getting the 2NL letter that says go and check the ESC page. And in the ESC page, you're supposed to see your appointment details, which shows you the date and time of your interview, right? That part of it, the ESC page being updated with that letter, is broken at the moment. It's broken. It's nothing about your case specifically. It's not them trying to annoy you specifically. It's a general thing worldwide. Okay, it's broken. This has happened before, and occasionally they fix it, and then it gets broken again. It's like a comedy show, the clown show of an organization. So it's broken right now. It's generally been happening to people with July interviews. It's been happening in that sort of timeline, but there may be some June people affected as well. And so it has been possible to email KCC, and KCC reply with an email that says your interview has been scheduled at your embassy on this date, right? It says the embassy name and it says this date, right? That gives you the date, but it doesn't give you the time. So you can then use that email response. You can use that to book your medical, and you can also contact the embassy, and the embassy will know the time of your interview date, hopefully. Okay, so you can use that information, and hopefully the ESC page problem, the glitch, will be fixed by the time you go for your interview as well. So you'll have that confirmation of the time that way. But just do what you can to get prepared for that date, and nearer the interview, try and find out the time. What time of day are you supposed to go there? But you have been scheduled, and it is going to be on the date that KCC will tell you. And so just plan to go there at 7 o'clock in the morning or something, and be there all day if you have to. If you can't find out the time, just turn up at 7 o'clock in the morning and wait, and spend the whole freaking day there. And yes, I know that's a pain in the ass, but I don't care. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So make yourself a sandwich, get yourself a cup of tea, and wait outside the embassy from 7 o'clock in the morning if you have to. Just do whatever it takes. Okay. I get questions from people. They say things like, well, we're expecting our interview in July, or in August or whatever, but we're pregnant. We may have a baby in that same month. Should we cancel the interview? I'm like, no, you shouldn't cancel the fucking interview. You should get off your ass and get there. I don't care if you have a baby in the morning, and your appointment is in the afternoon, or if the baby's a day old or whatever. You can swaddle the baby up and carry the baby to the interview, right? You can get the mother out of the bed, and get to the interview. Don't cancel your interview. Don't postpone your interview because you had a baby. This is not like a hairdressing appointment. This isn't something you just dick around with. You take this seriously, right? This is a life-changing, life-altering day in your life. It doesn't matter what's going on. I don't care if your brother got run over by a truck and broke his leg, and you're supposed to run him to the hospital. Put him in a taxi, and get to the interview, right? Because the broken leg's going to heal. I'm serious. Like there's very, very few scenarios that would stop me getting to an interview for a green card, right? Literally, very, very few scenarios. I mean, alien invasion comes to mind. Zombie apocalypse comes to mind. Those sorts of things. That's what I'm talking about, right? Other than that, I don't want to hear about it. I want you to get to your interview. I don't want you to cancel it. I don't want you to postpone it. I want you to get to your interview, right? Okay. Yusuf, because the officials who control the visa bulletin numbers are very random, so it will be normal to be current for Asia next month. Okay, Yusuf, we'll see. Yeah, they are very random. You're right in that. Who knows how they work? I don't know. I'm not saying it can't happen. I would never say it can't happen, right? Just no mathematical reason why it should happen. Felix applied for someone and he was lucky. AF34K Nairobi. Nothing so far crazy. Already worried for the young man. Yep, me too. I'd be worried. DV 2025 case number AS19K. Is there a chance to get the second letter? There is a chance. You're in the sort of the possibility range. Yes. It's just that we're now looking at a pretty big jump to get to. You need them to get to about 20K, right? So, from 11 to 20K, that's a pretty big jump, but we'll see. EU 30,500, DV 25. Any chances left? Yes, you've got some chance left. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm feeling sort of 50-50 is where I'm at to see a 30,000-ish number. About 50-50. Some people are probably surprised. But yeah, I could easily, I won't be surprised at all. I'll be more surprised, frankly, if the number is like 25,000 or something or below. I'd be more surprised by that for EU than seeing 30,000 for EU. I'm more inclined to guess 30,000 than 25 or below, right? I mean, what it increased, it went from 19 to 22, so a 3,000 increase. So another 3,000 increase would take it to 25. You could say, well, that's all they should do logically. Yeah, but that would still surprise me, just knowing how they've worked the last couple of years. Ryan, hey, big fan of your work. Can Algerians transfer DV interviews to Tunisia without residency if they'll be there for an interview? Some say yes, others say new rules say no. What's true? I don't know, Ryan. You have to do your own. I don't know the visa requirements for every embassy, particularly as that is affected by which country you're coming from, etc. I can't keep track of it all. So it's a very localized thing, and I would suggest that you listen to local trusted sources, try and filter through some of the noise to try and figure out who you believe. But if worst comes to the worst, you can always contact the embassy and ask them, right? That's a possibility. 33K EU 2025. I understand we need a Hail Mary, but if we get it, what would be my chances given that I'm with the Dublin embassy? You'd have a good chance in Dublin, I would say. Just guessing and looking at let me just quickly, don't need to show this, but Dublin, DBL, no. What is it? Is it DBL? Probably is DBL. Yeah, they take very few cases, but yeah, you'd be fine. So yeah, that's the advantage of being one of those little embassies. They can very easily accommodate right up to the latest number. They only get a few cases a year, right? So let me just check that I'm looking at the right embassy here. I think I am. DV. Honestly, I don't know what I would do without Zarthisius' site, because he's thought of everything that, Dublin, DBL. He's thought of everything. He makes a silly old guy like me look clever. And unfortunately, he makes some other YouTubers who are dopey as hell look clever as well, but they're not clever. But anyway, Thomas says, I need some info on the travel ban. I'm Eritrean, a refugee in Uganda with a Ugandan travel document. Any chance I won the DV25 lottery? When you say Ugandan travel document or a UNHCR travel document, these travel documents are generally replacements and sort of temporary explanations of why you might need to travel, right? Because you're an asylum seeker, you're a refugee in that country, perhaps. In general, travel documents are not the same as a passport, right? Now, in order to get around the travel ban, the exception needs to be based on another citizenship traveling on that passport, not just another travel document or a travel foil or UNHCR or anything like that. I don't think that's going to give you an exception. You've got to show that you have a passport from another country based on a citizenship at that country, in that country, and that is all genuine, that you genuinely have that second citizenship. Okay. Olivia. I'm 55k in Benin. Do you think I will go current next VB? And please tell us if SEAC data 25 is updated already. SEAC data is being updated constantly, every day of the week. Literally every day of the week there are changes. Every Friday, DV Charts, Zarthisius' site, dvcharts.zarthisius.xyz, updates that data and makes it available to everyone. Those of you that are in the know might also get updates from Philip, on a daily basis during the week. So, the data is constantly being updated. Will you get current next VB? Yeah, almost certainly, I would say. 55k, yeah, you'll probably get current, right? So you've got a good chance. There is communication on Nairobi website that says they are processing DV25. Can this give us a little hope that they will resume interviews? Yeah, you can choose to take hope from that, for sure. I hope it's true, but it remains to be seen what they actually do. What advice would you give to those who won the DV Lottery 25 but are from countries, I guess, under travel restriction? Again, the travel ban is pretty friggin' solid, in my opinion. I think there's going to be some lawsuits against it for sure. I think it was Curtis pointed out that he's aware of something like 35 different lawsuits that are, maybe looking to attack the travel ban in various ways. Attacking a travel ban like that is very, very expensive, and is probably going to be undertaken by a large organization like ACLU or a state, or a big school or something like that. Those are the only people that have got pockets deep enough to attack the travel ban, right? Now, when the travel ban went through challenges before, the first two versions of it were taken down, one by a lawsuit, and second, the government just retracted it. But they came out with a third version, travel ban 3.0, we tend to call it. And that was challenged through lawsuits, and that lawsuit went all the way up to the Supreme Court, went through every court and went up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court allowed the travel ban 3.0 to stay in place. And so that's why I'm not very hopeful that this travel ban can be challenged that much. There are some differences, but the travel ban 3.0 succeeded because it was worded around security. And to an extent, the new travel ban is sort of about security. They also list some overstay countries and that sort of thing, which might be a gap that someone could exploit. But when I say someone, I mean a lawyer, a law firm, a lawsuit. But generally, I think it's going to be allowed to stay in place. So it's not going to be reviewed. It's not going to be changed. It's not going to be taken down unless it's challenged by a lawsuit during the time when DV 2025 is going through. So my advice is, unless you've got money to throw away, you want to be very seriously considering whether or not you should be attending the interview if you've got an interview lined up. They will arrange interviews. They will send 2NLs. And some of you think that surely that means that I'll be okay. Surely that means they must be planning to give me a national interest exception. No, it's just a normal part of the process. They're sending out the 2NLs, and they will take you through an interview. And at the end of the interview, they will give you a piece of paper saying you're not going to be given a visa. You're being refused because of the proclamation, the travel ban. It's incredibly cruel, but that's exactly what they're doing. So I wouldn't waste my money. I wouldn't go to the interview. That would be my advice. Yusuf, you're saying, you seem to be arguing with me like I'm in charge of this. Last year it went from 15k to 27.5 in a single month ratio. So always the pattern is random. Okay, Yusuf, I understand. I get it all. Maybe that will happen again. What you're describing, by the way, is a Hail Mary. It was the final Hail Mary in 2024. That could happen. Yes, absolutely. Will it happen? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Hi, Simon. When someone transfer a case, where should the medicals be done? At the embassy approved physician, which is listed on their website. So when you transfer, you'll need to do that medical in that other country. Okay. Jamel. Hello, Simon. In the DS260, I changed the zip code of my address from the one I originally applied. Do you think it's not going to be causing any problems? I changed the zip code of... No, it's not going to cause any problems. Not a problem. Esther, I'm Kenyan. My brother is US citizen by green card. He filed for me to join him. I got 17 months until they review my case in the process job. How long do you think the process will take? I have no idea. You're not talking about DV lottery. I have no idea. Hello, sir. How are you doing? I'm doing great. Thank you. What case number do you think it'll reach next month? I don't know. I sat in 221G for 3 months from late May, the year I processed my case. Most nervous 3 months of my life. Yeah. There's so much stress involved in this process. Waiting for your case number, waiting for your case to be approved after an interview in 221G. I mean, it's all very, very stressful stuff. Terrible. It's I don't know. Looking back, it was a wonderful opportunity to get my green card through the DV program. But I remember the stress I went through then, and I've experienced that vicariously through all of you for many years. And I know it's a huge amount of stress that most people go through. Some people have no stress at all. They're completely clueless how lucky they are. They get a low case number, they get a great embassy, and they go through, oh, I got a green card. Some people it's like that. But for many, many people, it's a big worrying, terribly stressful time for a year where they've realized their case number is high, and they've told all their friends they're going to be moving. They've told the kids. And then they're not sure whether it's going to happen, and then at the last minute it comes together or it doesn't. Very, very stressful. I wish I could make it better, but there's no way to be certain about any of it. Small God, I want to check out what should I do, sir? I want to check out I don't know. Again, you've still got this bunion problem or something that you were talking about earlier. Hi, Simon. Any updates from Abu Dhabi AF? No real updates. Still no detail of 2NL. Still no detail of 2NL DV25. What do you mean no detail? You can go on Zarthisius's website and download a spreadsheet with every single 2NL that has been sent out up until yesterday. What do you mean no detail? It's like, we got detail of every case number that's got a 2NL, when they got it, when they received that 2NL, what the visa status is right now, what the CX status is. What no detail? What are you talking about? Yeah, Dale, still don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Hi, Simon. Please can say something about ABD Embassy AF37K. Not much I can say about it. I don't know what's going to happen. Stefan, how you doing? From Lyon. EU 21XXX for 25, finally current. I was bricking it. Bricking it, that's a very English thing to say. I don't think that's a normal French thing to say. Thanks for all the information. And remember, English is just bad French. It's normal. Right, okay, touche. I'll take that one. That's all the friendly banter between the French and the English, although I have to show you that you say you're bricking it, which is clearly not from the Norman French, but there you go. With all that's happening in Nairobi Embassy for DV25, should it be a worry for DV26? This is the thing, Shid Stag, strange name. This is the thing. If you looked at Nairobi's performance last year, you'd have been feeling very confident in DV25 about Nairobi. And so an embassy can change from one year to another. They can change on a dime, right? Accra has been a bad embassy, and then this year is doing well. Let me just check that. Let's see how, I just want to see how good Accra is right now. Accra, look at that. It's right up to date, up to 46,000. It's just a tiny little bit backlogged, Accra. It's completely turned around. And Accra has been, oh, hang on. Am I looking at the right one? No, sorry. Yeah, I should be a bit more careful. It's up to 37,000. So yes, it's still a bit backlogged, but it's still a lot better than it was. Accra was a mess. It's been terrible for years. It's been a complete disaster. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, it's turned around. So, you know, Addis has been a mess for some time. Addis has got cases up to 46K. No, that's Algeria. What am I doing? I'm looking at the wrong thing. Oh, no, 45K. Although, actually, no, they're transfers. So it's Addis is now up to 37, 38. So they're a little bit backlogged, but a little bit better than Accra, but pretty good. Addis and Accra have been the bane of my life. They've been a complete pain in my ass for the last 2 or 3 years. And then this year they've turned around. So Nairobi was good last year, and then this year has not been good. And so what will it be like in 26? I don't know. I can't predict that. Can DV will be terminated 26? No, not really. Thanks for all. What do you think about 55.3 in Algeria? Might have a chance. How many time it takes between in transit and ready? When KCC send out the 2NL, the case is moved into an in transit stage. And then the embassy have to update that in the SIAC database in order to see the ready status. Some embassies do that within an hour or so of receiving that data. Sometimes it takes several weeks. Some of them are just lazy or slow at dealing with that. It doesn't make any difference. You just have to wait, but it doesn't matter to you. You've got your 2NL. You don't have to worry about that, right? It's just, you know, just the way it is. Hi, Simon. Can you say something about ABD? We already had that. Tony Sando says, thank you so much for the update. I have a question. I want to know if the case number is AF55K residing in Asia, China, and the cutoff number having include my case number. Oh, if case number is AF55. I don't know what you mean. But because you're residing in Asia, doesn't mean you look at the Asia number. You still look at your Africa number in China. Is that what you're trying to ask me? It's very badly worded, Tony, I'm afraid. But that's probably what you're asking me. Okay. Can you predict next month's visa bulletin? No. Any updates regarding the $250 charge for DV lottery? The reconciliation bill that's contained in hasn't been voted on through the Senate yet. So the House passed it, but it has to then be passed by the Senate and then go to President Taco for signing. That hasn't happened yet. Now, there will be some changes. Almost certainly, the Senate will come up with a different version of the reconciliation bill. There'll be changes. Where it will fall on the $250 thing, I don't know. I can't predict that. I hope it's not there because that's woefully unfair to a lot of countries. And yes, I am well aware that it will make it better for white Europeans and wealthy countries, etc., who can afford $250 because the chance of selection will go up. But that's not really a good good reason to do it. The diversity visa lottery is not supposed to be just for wealthy people, right? And I know $250 isn't a lot of money. I spent more than that on dinner last night, but still, it's a lot of money in some countries, and it means you're wealthy. If you can afford that, you're wealthy in some terms, in world terms, right? There are too many countries where that's just an insane amount of money. So, Roberto, this is the nice guy I was talking about earlier. No, you're the best, man. You're the best. You really are. You're the best of people. Jamshid, I used a picture from my deal. We've already done that one. Someone suggests I write an email to KCC for 2NL after visa bulletin update. Is this true? Yes. You can email KCC, particularly if you see that your SEAC data, that your SEAC information is turned to in transit. It means they have sent the 2NL and you somehow missed it, or it's not showing up in your ESC page. But yeah, you can definitely write to them, and they will pretty quickly respond in most cases that whether you've been scheduled or not. So you'll know whether you're going to get a 2NL this month. They might even they might do that even for some of the later alphabet cases. So this is one way where we can figure out whether they're going to send interviews or not, for example, for Nairobi. So if people from Nairobi email KCC, we would start to get a picture of whether Nairobi are planning to accept 2NLs or not. Okay. What will happen to DV27 for a partially banned country like Sierra Leone? This term partially banned country is being misunderstood. The partial part of the ban is for some non-immigrant visas. But from a DV lottery perspective, they are as banned on those 7 countries on the partial list are as banned as the 12 countries on the fully banned list from a DV lottery point of view, because they're banned for immigrant visas, which is what DV lottery is. So I don't like this sort of partially banned terminology. But are we eligible to enter, and what's the possibility of the ban to be lifted? You will be eligible to enter. This is the weird thing. I know it's confusing. But the ban is on visa. Well, the 212F is supposed to give the president powers to stop entry. And so they should actually be issuing visas. But the government has taken it to mean, despite us winning a lawsuit before saying it shouldn't be used this way, they've taken it to mean that they can stop issuing visas to people. That's an overstep. The government feel that that's their appropriate. They felt that Judge Mehta overstepped when he said that the visa should be issued. But the 212F was clearly about entry, not about the other work that the government does, like the processing of the DS-260, the scheduling of the interview itself, and the issuance of the visa. In a lawsuit before, Judge Mehta, who's from the DC Circuit, very senior judge in the DC Circuit, he agreed with us that all of that work should still continue. And so in theory, they should be issuing those visas. In reality, there's probably not a lot of point. There wasn't the same motivation that we had in 2020 to get that done, because in 2020, we were hoping for a change of administration, and therefore for those visas that were for banned countries that were issued were going to be able to be used. And it worked out that way, right? So it worked. But this time it won't work because we've got 3 years left of TACO Guy. So yeah, it's a problem. But anyway, if I were you, I would enter DV27 for Sierra Leone and any other country that's banned, because yes, things could change. Well, we don't know 100%, but you may as well enter. So that'll be in October of this year. Okay. All right. Let's just look for any other sort of interesting questions here. If my consulate is not busy and process cases up to 43K last year, could I make it with a number of 36K this year? You said that number is above 35,000. It's unlikely. Are you talking about EU region, Probably EU region. It really, first of all, is your number going to go current? That's the first question. I don't know. And then whether your embassy is able to schedule you or not depends on the capacity for that embassy. So it's a bit of a vague question to be able to answer. You'll have to wait and see is the best thing I can say to you. Right, it's the only thing you can say. 2025 global quota is 52k. That's correct. And the EU region has closely followed the 2024 bulletin pace so far for cases before. I estimate that the final cases for the number in EU in September will be 15,106 and 17,000. What are you saying, Sank? The final cases before number 3. I don't know what. I don't know what you mean exactly. I think you're trying to sort of, unfortunately, you've taken a number of cases and haven't related that to the case number, which is what most people would understand that by. But I think you're talking about the number of cases. Fine, okay. Might be about right. I don't know. Yeah. Right. Let's see. Thank you for answering questions. I see it takes a lot of patience. Yeah, I get annoyed sometimes, Luther, but never mind. Hi, Simon. I'm from Asia region, about 3K. When will my CM be current for DV26 on DV lottery? Asia 3K will be current almost immediately, probably October, November, maybe December at the latest. Be about then. Okay. Sometimes the first visa bulletin is a number just picked out of the air, really. There's no information that's being used. So sometimes they go with a high number, sometimes it's a little bit lower. It's a bit random. There's no real sense to it. Okay. So it's just a starting number. But obviously, great case number, so you'll be fine, right? EU 26K, 20K case number. Is it a good number? And MA, a good state to start living in USA. Massachusetts is a good state, yes. Financially, it's a good state. Politically, it's a good state. Weather is a little bit sucky in the winter, but if you can handle a little bit of a cold winter, it's not a bad place to live. EU 20K in 2026 is probably okay. We don't know how many selectees there are. So although we know the number ranges, right, we don't know how many people are in those number ranges yet. So it's a little bit reckless or unwise to say your number is definitely going to be safe or definitely not going to be safe or whatever. So you have to wait and see until we've got more data, at least the number of selectees per country and per region. That's what we'd have to have. Okay. Do you think that they may decide to stop at 22K for EU or maybe a small increase like 250, 500? I think it's very unlikely they stop at 22K. That would be very unlikely. And 250 or 500 increase also very unlikely. Okay. Look, man, my wife and I, no children, are planning to submit our DS260 in December or January due to various reasons. When would I likely receive my 2NL? Well, your main driver of when you receive your 2NL is your case number, and you haven't told me that, Luckman. So I don't know what your case number is, but let's assume you've got a very, very low case number, but you don't submit until January, right? The amount of time it will take for the DS260 to be processed varies between cases, but it can be as fast as like 2 or 3 weeks if there is no backlog of cases. Now, in January of next year, if they've over-selected, let's say they've got about 130,000 people selected again, right? There will still be a bit of a backlog in January of next year. So it might take a month or 2 months before your case is actually processed, the DS260. It could take that long, which means that you would get your, I'm assuming that you've got a very, very low case number, but your DS260 is submitted, let's say, early January, and it's processed, let's say, sometime in March, right? That means that you would get, you'd become eligible for interview in April based on your DS260 processing, and that would give you a June interview. That's basically what would happen, right? Again, depending on the embassy. There's so many factors here, right? I don't know how many people are going to be selected next year. The number of selectees or in DV26 is important because that reflects how much work KCC are going to have to do. A high number of selectees means it takes longer for KCC to get through the DS260s. If they underselect, if they select 100,000 or less, then DS260 processing backlog will be done by December, as it used to be. So, you know, there's so many factors that come together. It's difficult to be precise. Mehdi, please answer me, Mr. Simon. Please, I submitted my DS260 the second day after I won the DV25. If my 57K get current in August, could I get an interview in Algeria's embassy? It's nothing to do with your with when you submitted your DS260. If somebody waited until, let's say, 6 weeks ago, and they're at the same number, or they're even a little bit higher than you or lower than you, and they submitted all that time later, they will be treated exactly the same as your case because neither one of you is current yet. So as soon as you get current, basically the date when you submitted the DS260 is completely irrelevant, makes no difference, doesn't make any difference to your chance of scheduling or when in the month you get scheduled, makes no difference at all, okay? What does make a difference is your case number. At the time when you are added into the batch of numbers that are being that are going to be scheduled for that embassy, you'll be ordered in the case number order. So a 56K number who submitted very, very late, submitted their DS260, would be in front of you, okay? Again, your DS260 submission date means nothing in that respect, okay? Could you get an interview in Algiers? Maybe. You know, I have to wait and see. That's obviously going to be a fairly big stretch. I mean, they're doing very well, but their average number of cases, I haven't looked, but their average number of cases is about 32 per 1,000, right? So if they to get to you, they've got to get from about 46,000, right? It looks like they've just taken cases for this month. They've got to get from 46,000 to 57,000. That's 11,000, 1,000 chunks at about 32 cases on average per 1,000. That's a big number of interviews, 350 interviews or something they would have to take. So there's some risk for you, even if you do get current, Mehdi. Okay. I think they take. What do you think about Algeria embassy? I think they are so backlogged. Why they only take few cases? It's complete nonsense. They're not backlogged. They're a little bit backlogged. Algeria. They just took 81 cases, right? I mean, that's not bad. You know, I mean, maybe I prefer they take more, but it's not bad. But yes, so Mehdi that was just asking about his 57 case number, 81 won't get to him. That's for sure. So if they have a capacity of 81 and there's 32 per 1,000, then you know they're going to move about 3,000. They'll get to maybe 50,000 or so, right? Anything above that number is at risk based on that capacity. But we don't know the final capacity that they're going to use. In let me just see. In January, they took about 130 cases. In February, they took about 160 cases. In March, they took 174 cases. So they do have the capacity to take a few more cases. Will they do that or not? I don't know. Okay. What is SEAC? SEAC is spelled CEAC. And SEAC is a database. It's got a couple of uses. SEAC is also the place where you go and fill out your DS260, but it has a status tracker, so we can get the status of any case number, and all of that data is presented on Zarthisius's website. Okay. So are you going to sue the government on the DV26 on GB issue? Yeah, DV25 and 26. Yes, I'm suing them. Curtis is working on that this weekend. Curtis is extremely busy at the moment, and I mean, he's got a lot of concerns. You can imagine, with the government being such a bunch of idiots at the moment. Curtis has got a lot of work to do, right? So, but it's my full intention to still sue. I've I've got to go and sign it. I've printed out my final affidavit, which says all of the information that I can see that shows that they've screwed up. But it's really a slam dunk at this point. I know for a fact that they have included Cuba in DV26. That means they didn't turn off Cuba for 2026. That is the same problem as not turning on for DV25 and DV26, the GB entries. It's the same problem. It's very, very clear what they've done. And I've emailed the director of KCC and said, this is what you've done. I've given him the proof. That, I've asked them, I've tried a FOIA request to try and alert them to the problem. Back in February, I did that. There's a bunch of things I've done to try and make the government understand that they've fucked up. And apparently nothing else is going to work apart from this lawsuit. The lawsuit will be won. It'll be a winning lawsuit in that we will prove that they've fucked up. That's the win that we're looking for. What we then need, and this bit I can't be sure of how it's going to go, what we then need is for us to be involved in designing the remedy for those cases, DV 25 and 26. We've got lots of time for 26 to fix this problem for 26. We've got very little time left for DV 25. So hopefully they'll be cooperative as soon as the government sort of have it in front of them and in front of a judge, and everybody in the room is clear that the mistake has been made. Then I'm hoping the government will see, fair enough, we screwed up, sorry about that, how can we fix this? And they'll come up with some ideas, and I've got some ideas on how they can fix it. And the ideas don't have to impact anybody else in Europe or anyone in South America, for those worried about that. Any selectees, they don't have to impact that. Having said that, I don't control the government entirely, which is why a lawsuit is kind of a safer method, because we can hopefully negotiate the remedy. But yes, it's my full intention to sue them. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it in a way, because we'll get some information that we haven't had before. We'll get justice for GB entrants. It's going to be good. Unfortunately, the legal process doesn't move fast. That's the only thing. I mean, Curtis isn't in control of what the government do. He's not in control of what the judges do in the court system. It takes time. So whether we're going to have the time to fix DV25 in a way that gives them a chance or not, I don't know. If we got a result, as late as, let's say, September, believe it or not, we could still fix this for DV25. For DV26, it's a no-brainer. We've got lots of time. But for DV25, we'd need to know by the beginning of September. And what would happen is we would force the government to contact via email all of the people that are actually selected from GB in DV25, tell them to submit their DS260s. They could do that. They could turn those DS260s around very quickly in a week to 2 weeks. They could process those even faster if they want to. They've done this in lawsuits before, and they could schedule people for interview in late September if they had to, and people could get themselves ready for that. It's going to be stressful if it happens that late, no doubt, but at least some justice will have been served, and some people will get their visas. So fingers crossed. But anyway, yeah, I'm definitely going ahead with it, and I appreciate all the people that have donated to the fighting fund, the treasure chest of legal fees fund, and also that have filled out that form. The form has had fantastic responses. I gave information to Curtis, and he came back with an email that says, wow, we got all the right questions. This made it very easy. So, we've got We got a very, very good case with excellent evidence, absolute slam dunk. It's going to win. So, we'll see. We'll see what will happen. Okay, so Joseph Kowal is in New York because of the guidelines. That's awesome. I'm glad to have helped. Okay. This will probably be the last question. There is one VB left for DV25 in July for September interviews. Is that correct? Yes, it is. Is there still a possibility of a Hail Mary? Absolutely. The Hail Mary happens in that last VB. If it happens at all, just like in a game of American football, a Hail Mary is where they throw the ball down to the other end of the field as far as they can possibly throw it, and they throw it into a bunch of people, players from both sides, and it's like, who can grab the ball and can they get it in for the touchdown, because they've got 3 seconds left in the game. That's why I'm calling this a Hail Mary, because it's that sort of thing. It's a complete toss-up at that point as to who catches the ball and who runs down for the touchdown. It's chaos, but it's beautiful chaos in a way. So that's what I'm hoping for. And it's still possible. Yes, absolutely. And it's not like it would be the first time. We saw it last year. We saw it the year before. So it does happen. Okay. All right, everybody. I hope that was interesting to you. I hope that answers some of the questions. If you still have an outstanding question that I didn't get to today, please do go and ask that at britsimonsays.com. Just one thing. I'm going to be traveling this week, and I'll be away for a few days. I don't think I'm traveling internationally. I'll be in Spain. So I should probably not say that because my wife doesn't know. I hope she's not watching. I'm going to surprise my wife and daughter in Spain. So I won't be able to do a live session next weekend. I may record something, if I can, I'll do something. But if not, I'll be back the week after. So there may be a 1 week gap in my live session. So it's not that I don't love you. It's just I've got other people I love more, and I'm going to be spending time with them in Spain, which is freaking awesome. In Gran Canaria, by the way, if anyone wants to come see me in Gran Canaria, I'd be delighted to meet for a cafe con leche. All right. Okay, everybody. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.